Welcome to Down the Dopamine Hole, where random subjects are forced to hold hands until they get along and then tied together with a psychological concept. Kind of like forced labor. I'm Dr. Amy Guertin, but you can call me Amy. I've been in this field for over 30 years, a lot of it working with children and teenagers. Believe me, anything you call me is better than what I've been called before. I don't normally do episodes that are entirely about psychological concepts, but I got a request. And I can't exactly refuse my first request, can I? So I had a request to do a podcast about self-abandonment. And it's probably a concept that you're familiar with, even if the term is not something that you're familiar with. Self-abandonment is exactly what it sounds like. It is when you abandon your own needs, desires, wants, feelings in order to focus on another person's needs. Generally, it happens because you were raised in some type of abusive, neglectful environment with unpredictable caregivers, and the self abandonment, the focusing on someone else's needs, became a survival mechanism. Kids learned to ignore their own needs and they put their parents' needs first in order to be loved. They then grow up to become adults who put everyone else's needs first because they feel like they don't deserve to have needs. There are times when kids can learn self abandonment outside of just abuse and neglect, or at least what we think of as malicious abuse and neglect. If a child grows up with a parent that's ill, that parent's needs become central to the family, and the child learns that their needs are not as important. That can lead to self abandonment. If a child grows up with parents who are very unhappy, they learn that they don't have the right to be happy, that that's the way that things are supposed to be, that unhappiness is the default, it's the norm. They learn that they are not supposed to want things that are going to make them feel better. Parents are basically so focused on their own needs that they don't put the needs of their child first. They put the responsibility for their own well being on their child. Parents don't know how to self regulate, so they can't manage their emotions. They take their emotions out on their children and they blame their child for the way that they feel. Parents tend to be impulsive, they can be abusive, they can be neglectful, they tend to be unpredictable. There's different ways that parents tend to treat kids. One of them is they tend to treat them like little adults and they praise them for how grown up they are. But the problem is that if you have a child that's very grown up, you have a parent that's not doing their job. Kids are supposed to be kids. Parents are supposed to be adults. Being very grown up for your age or being very mature for your age, that's not a compliment and it's not healthy. Another issue that can happen with kids who have self abandonment issues is they can end up in very enmeshed relationships with their parents. The reason is because parents put children in a friendship role. One of the most important traits in friendship is equality. You cannot have equality between a parent and child. One of the things with parent and children relationship is there is a power differential. That's one of the things that makes a parent and a child a child. When a parent is treating a child like their friend, they're giving their child the message that they're an equal. But then they'll turn around and they'll try to consequence their child for doing something wrong, which then gives their child the message that they are no longer an equal. And that's really confusing for a child. Having an enmeshed relationship with a parent is not healthy and not good, either for the child or the parent. Another thing that can happen is parents see their children as entities that do not have their own thoughts, feelings, emotions, or rights. They look at their kids as property. Kids are not property. They see anything that is in their house or anything that belongs to their child as their own. Their kids don't have the right to privacy. Their kids don't have the right to their own possessions. Their kids don't have the right to money that they earn. Everything that that child has, the parents have a right to. As kids get into, especially adolescence, Privacy is an extremely important thing. Possessions are extremely important things. And the reason for this is because it teaches kids to start to be independent. It teaches them to start to have their own identity. And this is preparation for adulthood. And when parents don't give that to a child, which very frequently happens when parents put their own needs first, kids end up much more dependent or they end up much more rebellious. But either way, they're not learning to become productive members of society. Yet very often these parents, as soon as these kids turn 18, expect these kids to be adults, but they've never taught them how to do that. This all happens because generally this is the way that the parents were raised. It's a generational cycle. If you're wondering if self-abandonment is an issue that you have, there are some symptoms that you can look at that will give you a clue. One is if you feel guilty for being happy when other people aren't happy, that's a pretty good indication. Not speaking up for yourself is another indication. Either advocating for yourself when you need something that someone else is not taking care of, or speaking your opinion for fear of offending somebody else. People pleasing, saying yes because you don't want to either have other people get mad at you, you don't want to upset someone else, that type of thing. Being emotionally exhausted and burned out all the time. Avoiding conflicts at all costs. Not taking care of yourself, physically, mentally, or emotionally. I'm amazed at how many people come to me with physical issues that they are aware of and that they have had for quite a long time. Being a perfectionist, because if you're perfect, then maybe people will treat you better. Doesn't really work, but it doesn't mean that you don't try. Constantly seeking validation or reassurance from other people that you're a good person, that they love you, that they're not going to leave you. Not trusting your feelings or instincts because you have been told that your feelings aren't valid, that your thoughts aren't valid. Hiding who you really are from other people because you are afraid that if people knew who you really are, they wouldn't like you. A lot of self-criticism and judgment. Suppressing your feelings, either ignoring your feelings or doing things where you can escape the way that you feel. Codependent relationships. So focusing so much on other people's needs that you ignore your own. Really high levels of anxiety are common in people with self-abandonment issues and difficulty setting boundaries. One main issue with self-abandonment is self-esteem. People with self-abandonment issues tend to have very poor self-esteem because they've been told their entire life that they don't matter. One of the questions that I get from a lot of my clients is, how can I make my self-esteem better? There's no easy answer for that, especially one that I can give you in a few minutes. If you go and look at a lot of information about self-esteem, you get a lot of really abstract concepts like you need to learn to love yourself and you need to engage in more self-care, which I completely agree with all of that. But there's reasons why people are in therapy for longer periods of time to try to improve their self-esteem. One of the things that I want to do is I just want to give you a few things that you can do that are more concrete and that will help your self-esteem. The first thing, you have to understand that the way that you see yourself is very skewed. It's like looking at yourself in a funhouse mirror. You know, those ones that like make you all short and fat and tall and skinny and weird. Except that's how you think you really look. You don't. What you're seeing is you're seeing yourself through the words of people that have told you your whole life that that's what you look like. But I want you to consider the source. The source wasn't super healthy. You have to learn how to look at yourself in a regular mirror. Everyone else around you can see you in a regular mirror, but you have to learn to look at yourself the way that everyone else looks at you. And there's an exercise that you can do that will help you do this. One of the things that you do is you ask the people that you're close to, and please pick the healthy ones, what their favorite thing is about you. Yes, this is going to make you uncomfortable because they're going to say good things about you. Suck it up, get over it. You're asking them from their perspective, what is their favorite thing about you? And the answers are going to be pretty enlightening. You're going to get some things that you would not expect. Write them down. They're very good to go back to. And if anybody wants to share what someone's favorite thing is about them, I would love to read them. The second thing that you can do to improve your self-esteem is say thank you to compliments. Just thank you. Not thank you, but, which is what a lot of people tend to do. You have to understand that language has power. When you say thank you, you're not going to believe it, at least at first. But if you learn to just say thank you and smile, you will learn to believe it, at least a little. The third thing that you can do to improve your self-esteem is something that I call flip the script. And it basically means if you're in a situation and you're trying to think of what to do or you're trying to think of how to handle it, I want you to imagine that you were talking to a friend who is in the same situation. You need to flip the script and you need to say, if one of my friends was telling me the same thing, what would I say to them? And then that's what you need to do, because you have to understand you may be a people pleaser, and I'm not going to say that that's fine, but for now that's fine, as long as you also treat yourself like a person, because you're a person too. The fourth thing that you can do to improve your self-esteem is you can work on your support system. People pleasers tend to have large support systems. And I mean, that makes sense because you say yes to everything and you put everybody's needs before your own. So of course, everybody wants to be friends with you. But a large support system doesn't necessarily mean a good support system. In order to have a good support system, you have to have people that do not take away your peace, which means people that cause drama, people that do not take your needs into consideration, people who get upset with you when you do put your needs first occasionally. Those people take away your peace. And at some point, you need to cut them out of your life. And I know the thought of cutting somebody out of your life is awful. But at some point, you need to make sure that you create a good support system. You need to make sure that you are surrounded by people that do not take away your peace. The last thing that I'm going to tell you that you can do to improve your self-esteem, find your joy. Go do things that you want to do. If you want to go take a pottery class, take a pottery class. If you want to go ride in a hot air balloon, go ride in a hot air balloon. If you want to backpack across Europe, go backpack across Europe. If you want to, I don't know, take up painting or take an adult ballet class or learn how to work on cars, like, I don't care what it is, go do it. Another main issue with self-abandonment is boundaries. A lot of people think that boundaries are like putting up walls to not let people in, but that's not really the case. It's more like putting up a fence around your yard with a gate. So you get to decide who goes in and out and when. Boundaries are pretty much the yeses and nos that you put into your life to protect yourself so that you own your own life and you make good decisions and you can be authentic in the way that you live, in the way that you love, in the way that you give, and in the way that you relate to other people. Boundaries help you define who you are. They help you to become less enmeshed with other people. They help you be kinder to yourself. They also let other people know what to expect from you. And by letting other people know what to expect from you, it helps people trust you more. Because when you become predictable, people become more trusting. They let you protect yourself. They let you let in what's good, keep out what's bad, and it gives you a safe place to express yourself. It allows you to actually have some control over the things that happen in your life and over the things that you do. Keeps other people from controlling you because it makes it a lot easier for you to say no. Once you figure out what it is that you want, it makes it a lot easier for you to stay on that path. And it helps you to protect your most precious asset, which is you. It's nice to know what boundaries are and what they're good for, but how do you actually create them? You need to first define what is important. If you don't know where to start in terms of boundaries, there's a few statements that you can start with that will help. Fill in the following statements with as many things as you can think of. I'll give you some suggestions to start with. Write these down and keep them. And every time you think of something else, just write it in. I'm going to give you 3 statements with blanks. People may not blank. People may not go through my things. People may not touch me without permission. People may not make plans for me without asking. People may not humiliate or criticize me. Another statement is, I have the right to ask for blank. I have the right to ask for time to myself. I have the right to ask for privacy. I have the right to ask for more information before agreeing to something. I have the right to ask for help or support. Another statement is, to protect my time and energy, it is okay to say no. It is okay to not answer the phone past a certain time or while I'm engaging in a certain activity. It is okay to not take work calls after a certain time. It is okay to change my mind. It's okay to do things just for myself. Once you have an idea of your needs, which these statements can help you with, it may be a matter of just waiting until a situation happens, and then you need to pull these out. But sometimes you may have to have a difficult conversation with somebody in order to address an issue that already exists. And if this happens, there's probably certain things that you need to keep in mind. Let's say that you are going to have a conversation with your parents who are critical. You're going to use really simple, direct language that mirrors one of your statements. So something like, it is not okay for you to criticize me. I would be, more than happy to have a conversation if you can be respectful. Do not, and this is really, really common with people that have self-abandonment issues, do not defend, debate, or over-explain your feelings or your boundaries. You don't need an explanation for why you have a boundary. If I say, like, it's not okay for you to criticize me, and someone says, I don't criticize you, I'm not getting into a debate about whether or not you criticize me. If I feel criticized and you're going to sit there and say that you don't criticize me, I'm not going to get into a debate with you about that. Don't over-explain it. Don't defend it. If the other person resists, you repeat your boundary. If they still resist, then you have an exit plan. Really good idea if you figure out that exit plan before you go into the conversation. But you have an exit plan. You respectfully end the conversation, respectfully, and you leave. Other examples, I need to have a better work-life balance, so I won't be taking phone calls after 6 p.m. anymore. Or it's not okay for you to call me names. If you do, I'm going to walk away from the conversation. I'm more than willing to talk if you want to be respectful. Or I can't go out tonight. I've had a really busy week. I need time to myself, but I'd be more than happy to go out another. Here's probably the biggest issue. People set boundaries, but then they don't enforce them. They set boundaries and then they put the responsibility on the other person to actually follow them. And that's not what's going to happen. It is your responsibility to enforce the boundary. If that's not something that you can enforce, set a different boundary that you can. Say you set a boundary and your boundary is, if you call me a name, I'm going to leave. And that's not something that you're actually willing to do. What you are then telling the person is they don't have to respect you because you tell them something, you don't follow through on it. You're telling them you don't have to respect what I say. If it's not a boundary that you can enforce, don't set it. Set something smaller. You might set a boundary of, if you call me a name, I'm going to point it out and I'm going to tell you how I feel about it. If that's a boundary that you can enforce, then that's the boundary that you need to set. It's one of the best treatments for, like pretty much everything is cognitive behavioral treatment, or CBT. CBT works to change your thoughts or your perceptions of a situation so that you can change your feelings and your behaviors. There's a few core beliefs of CBT. The first one is that the situation isn't nearly as bad as your reaction to the situation. Say your significant other brings you a gift for no reason, just a gift. Normally, like 2 ways that I see people react to this. The first one is, what did you do? What are you about to do? Or what are you about to tell me that's going to really upset me or make me mad? If that is your thought process, you are going to feel very hurt, very suspicious, and you are going to behave very distantly. And you are going to take a benign, good, loving situation, and you are going to turn that situation very negative. The other way that I see people react to that is I see people that kind of think, oh, you're so kind, you're so nice, you're so loving. They feel really loved, really important. They act very loving. And that takes a good situation and just keeps it good. A lot of times, how bad the situation is kind of gets determined by how we react to the situation. The second core belief is that our thoughts and our perceptions determine how we see the world. You have to understand that something is called the news because it's rare. If it happened, 1,000 times a day, we wouldn't see it on the news because it wouldn't be news. But when we see things on the news, we have this tendency to think that they happen more often than they actually do. We tend to see a lot of violence on the news. So we think that violence is really common. In reality, aggravated assault, rape, and murder, really not common. The incidence rate of these three crimes combined is 0.3%. You actually have less than 1/3 of a 1% chance of being a victim of aggravated assault, rape, or murder, which is a lot less than what you think. But we perceive that it must be really common because we see it on the news all the time. We see it on social media all the time. So it must be common and the world must be a dangerous place. And in reality, it's not. Our behavior also affects how we think and feel. So thoughts don't just lead to behaviors, kind of the other way around too. If we believe that we aren't good at something, then we're not going to do it. And then not doing it reinforces the belief that we're not good at it. People with social anxiety, for example, when they go into social situations, they don't talk to a lot of other people. What that does is that does not build up their social skills, which then reinforces, number one, the anxiety that they are not able to do something, but then also the belief that they are not good at something. How does CBT actually work when it comes to self-abandonment, when it comes to self-esteem, and when it comes to boundaries? The basic thing with CBT is that we have to learn how to challenge our thoughts and our perceptions. We have to learn to make our thoughts and our perceptions more rational, more in proportion to the situation. We have to learn to change our automatic negative thoughts, and we have to make them at least more neutral. If you tell your friends, I want to learn how to do pottery, and they say, you have to find a studio you can go to, and then you have to buy the materials, and then you have to pay to get it fired. It's not like you can go at 11 o'clock at night if you feel like doing it and just go find somewhere to do it. It's a really labor intensive hobby. Why don't you just go find something that's easy that you can just go do at home at any time and it's not going to cost you a lot of money? Maybe you start thinking to yourself, maybe they're right. Maybe that would be a really hard hobby to do. You have to challenge that thought and say, I want to do pottery. If it takes more effort to find somewhere to do it and it costs me a little bit more money to do it, then I have to decide if I think that's worth it. That's not up to my friends, that's up to me. Or if your boss talks to you about a minor mistake that you made and said, hey, this mistake happened. It's not a big deal, but I just want to find out what happened so that we can make sure it doesn't happen again. And your boss says, thanks for letting me know what happened. And you leave. And your automatic thought is, oh my God, my boss hates me. I'm going to get fired. You have to stop yourself. You have to challenge that thought. And you have to say, my boss started off with telling me this is not a big deal. I just need to know what happened. And then at the end of it, my boss said, thank you for letting me know what happened. I don't think that he hates me or I'm going to get fired if that was the conversation. If you and your significant other get into an argument and you think to yourself after the argument, they don't love me, they're going to leave me, you have to stop yourself and say, what actually happened during the argument that made me think that they don't love me and they're going to leave me? Was there anything said? How did the argument end? Did we talk about it? Did we resolve things? Because if so, things tend to be okay. It's learning how to change your thought patterns. Very often, CBT tends to be done after the fact. You sit down later in the day and then you think about the events that happened that upset you. Then you think about, okay, what was I thinking in that moment. How else could I have thought about that situation? The more and more you practice that, you'll start to realize that you can do it sooner and sooner until you get to the point of where you can actually do it in the situation. And then if you keep practicing it, you're going to realize that your thought patterns start changing permanently. You aren't born thinking negatively. You're not just going to be able to change this overnight. Greatest thing about CBT is that once you understand the theory, you can practice it on your own. But it just takes practice and a lot of it, and every day. Earliest I can remember feeling depressed, I was 8 years old. I know that my anxiety started at the latest in my 30s, but there's some indication that it was probably in childhood too. Even though I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD until much later, we know that ADHD starts in childhood. I will tell you that CBT has pretty much been my saving grace. CBT, I mean, as well as medication and a really dark sense of humor, has saved me. It has taught me how to change my thoughts regarding myself and my mental health issues. If I did not learn how to change those thoughts, I wouldn't be who I am. And I definitely wouldn't be as functional as I am. But it took work and practice and days when my brain just argued with itself all day long, many days, all day long. And it's exhausting. And a lot of people who don't have mental health issues have no idea how exhausting it is to fight with your own brain every single day. But you know what's more exhausting? Misery and despair and hopelessness. Because those motherfuckers will kill you. CBT is work, and it is so hard, but it's also extremely effective. And like most other things that are worth it, it is messy and it is long and it is tiring. It's Everest. Maybe you'll never get to the top of the mountain, but halfway up is a whole lot better than staying in that really dark and lonely hole. You may get tired of climbing, but at least you're on a path and you have a goal and you're in the sunlight. Don't ever forget that. And don't ever give up. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me. My goal is to put out content every Sunday. If you liked what you saw or listened to, hit all the buttons. If you really liked it, share it with everyone in the world, all 8 point whatever billion we have now. I know you can do it. I'm sure you were there that day in kindergarten when they taught you how to share. Feel free to like or comment. Comments make me feel like you actually listened, which is more than I can say for my students. If you're interested in any of the research for this podcast, it can be found below or on the corresponding website, downthedopamineHole.com. I'm also linking a CBT workbook, which has some worksheets that you can use to challenge your own thoughts. If you're interested in that, it's very good. I hope you learned something new. I hope you enjoyed your time down the dopamine hole. Be safe, take care of yourself, be happy. But most importantly, keep it weird.